The gradient of a straight line is a measure of how steep it is. There's some notes above there that tell you that if a line is sloping upwards from left to right, it's got a positive gradient. One like this is sloping downwards from left to right, it's got a negative gradient. You can work out the gradient by selecting any 2 points on a line and working out the rise divided by the run. In the case of this first one, if I was going on a journey between this point and this point, the rise is the number of squares I go up. Sometimes it's convenient to draw a little triangle around here like this. So that's how many squares along I go. The number of squares up I go, the rise. So the rise is the number of squares up I go. The run is the number of squares I go along. I go up 6 squares. So the rise equals 6, and the run, the number of squares I go along, equals 3. So if I want to work out the gradient, how steep is the line? It's the rise divided by the run. So that will equal 6 divided by 3, and 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Notice that that's a positive answer because it's sloping upwards as I look at it from left to right. Whereas this one down here is going to need to be a negative answer. Once again, I could draw a little triangle around, a right-angled triangle, because that helps me see what the rise and the run are. So the rise is the number of squares up, or in this case down, being negative, it's a rise. And you could say the rise was equal to -4 because you're going down 4. And the run is the number of squares along you go, equals 5. So the gradient equals the rise over the run. In this case it's -4 is the rise and the run is 5. I could leave my answer like that, or I could write it as a decimal if I wished. I'm pretty happy with it like that. Notice I'm expecting it to be a negative answer, and it is. Some people don't worry about this minus sign here, and they just say, well, there's 4 squares there and 5 squares there, that's 4/5, but I know it's going to be a negative answer because it's sloping downwards as I look at it, and they put their minus sign in at the end. That's absolutely fine if that's the way you want to do it. Between these 2 points, what's our rise and our run? It's going to be a fall. We're going downwards as I look at it from left to right. So the rise is going to be a negative of gradient equals the rise over the run. The rise is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 squares, but I'm going to put -10 because we're going down as we go from left to right, and the run is 5. Now I can see that -10 divided by 5 equals -2, and I'll write my answer like that. The next questions, we've got them in the number plane. And so I suppose one way you could go about it would be you could get these 2 points and you could plot them in the number plane wherever they occur, and then work out the gradient the same sort of way that we have here. There's another way though, and there's a formula by which you can do it. And the formula goes, the gradient equals the difference in the y coordinates divided by the difference in the x coordinates. Now, these little subscripts that I've put here, they're not squared or anything like that. It just means that this y2 is different from this y1. If this is point number 1, it's got an x and a y coordinate number 1. And if this is point number 2, I could call it x2, y2. So it's not a bad idea when you're doing these questions to actually write this in above your point, because then all you have to do is you have to say, you can say is y2 is that number 4. So this is going to equal 4 minus y1 was 3 over x2 is 5 minus x1 was -2. So I'm just getting these points and popping them into the equation instead of x and y. And so 4 minus 3 is 1 over 5 minus -2 is 7. So that's got a gradient of 1/7. If you wish, you could work that out as a decimal, but I'm quite happy with 1/7 for the answer. I'm just going to write this one as a decimal. So it could equal 0.1429. Find the gradient between these 2 points. So once again, with our formula, and let's write our values of x1, y1 above the point, and our point number 2, x2 and y2. Now all I have to do is get these values. For y2 is equal to -6, y1 equals 6, so be careful. We've got y2 minus y1, -6 minus 6, over x2, 1, minus x1, -5. Now you have to be careful with your positive and negative numbers. If necessary, go to extra trouble to write out a bit of, an extra step in your calculations. And if you are doing it, the whole thing on your calculator, be very, very careful, because this sort of question has got both addition and subtractions and division in the one question. You need to be aware of that. If you were working the whole thing out in your calculator, I would work out your top line and your bottom line separately and write it down, and then do it on your calculator. Okay, I'm not using my calculator. I'm going -6, take away another 6 is -12. And 1 minus -5 is the same thing as 1 plus 5, which is 6. Now I've got -12 divided by +6. Negative divided by positive, the answer is going to be a negative. And 12 divided by 6 is 2, so the answer is -2.